Welcome to another AMA. I'm John Tunison, the CFO of Soluna Holdings, Inc., and today I'll be answering shareholders and potential investors' most asked questions about our finances, our projects, and a few other topics. If you'd like to see written answers, please visit solunacomputing.com/blogs. And don't forget to stick around at the end of the presentation to learn how to submit your questions for next month's AMA. I also want to thank everybody who sent questions in advance. We really do appreciate you for sending them. We enjoy engaging with you, and I look forward to answering your questions. Today's questions are going to range from ones about our recent annual shareholder meeting, to our Project Dorothy, to dynamics of renewable energy, and our preferred stock. Before I get started, I wanted to remind you that the following content is completely qualified by the legal disclosures on the following slide. Our goal is to share with you some of our strategic thinking and financial analysis that we're using to guide the growth of our business. The content is in line with our principles of being accountable and transparent with shareholders. We operate, however, in a hyper-dynamic economic environment. That's really a fancy way of saying that things can and do change quickly. What we're telling you here is based on our estimates and assumptions, which are our best guess. We do reserve the right, however, to revise our point of view based on new information and changes in the business environment. Despite an uncertain, dynamic environment, we must plan and make operating and investment decisions. This presentation lays out some of that for your review. Our first question comes from Terry. Terry asked, your 10Q for the first quarter of 2024 shows that convertible debt is being converted to common stock at $3.78 per share. With this being the case, why is the company bothering to request that stockholders approve the action at the late May 2024 annual meeting, which occurs after the action has been taken? First, thank you, Terry, for your question, and appreciate it. As you may know, NASDAQ rules, which we're governed by, require that the company seek shareholder approval anytime we issue stock or warrants on stock that exceeds 20% of the currently issued stock. And that was the case with the Fourth Amendment to the convertible note, and therefore it resulted in several warrants and conversion shares exceeding this threshold, which is why we were required to submit to a vote from the shareholders, which I'm happy to say was passed at the annual meeting. Thanks again, Terry. Our next question comes from Doug. When do you forecast the resumption of dividends for your Series A preferred stock? Thanks, Doug. So the board continues to carefully evaluate the company's current and prospective financial and operating results, as well as the interests of all of its equity holders when making determinations to pay or accrue its Series A preferred dividends. And at this time, as you've already alluded to, they have elected to suspend the dividend. If that were to change, we'll communicate further information. Thanks, Doug. Amit asked, are you able to unlock and monetize the environmental value via RECs? That's renewable energy credits, for those that might not know, from your renewable energy generation assets? Thanks, Amit. That's a great question. So Soluna contracts via power purchase agreements, or PPAs, with the actual power producer who generates the RECs. So we don't actually own the assets. We don't actually generate the RECs ourselves. They're generated at the project site, but they're generated by the power producer. We do, however, have the option to purchase RECs to offset energy that we buy from the grid. Thank you, Amit. Our next questions come from Zach. First, he asked, what are the details behind the Dorothy 2 financing, including the management fees that will be paid to Soluna? And second, Zach asked, how does the financing pipeline look for Project Kotti? Let me take the first part of that first. So, Zach, we do look forward to sharing additional details about the Dorothy 2 financing once we announce the closing of the financing. What we have announced is that we have signed a term sheet with our partner, Springline Capital, but it is preliminary to give all of the details of the financing until we close it. To give you a little more information, the structure of Dorothy 2 is similar to structure of Dorothy 1A, where Springline Capital and Soluna will each own a share of the equity of the project, which will host Bitcoin customers at the site. And there will be developer and operator fees paid to Soluna. Again, look forward to communicating those details soon in due course. For your second question, it's a bit premature for us to discuss Project Kotti financing, other than to say that we have begun early engagement with potential financing partners, including both equity and debt. This question comes from Robin. Robin asks, Soluna announced 166 megawatts of hosting potential with Project Kotti. What is the estimated total revenue gain from this project, assuming Bitcoin stays around 65,000? Okay, good question, Robin. So as you know, at this stage, development work continues on Project Kotti, including the customer mix and economics. Although we won't provide specific guidance at this point on this project, I would suggest you could look at the economics of our flagship, Project Dorothy, to have a pretty good idea of the economics of our projects and a pretty good idea of what they might look like for Kotti. Our final question was asked anonymously. We were asked, regarding the balance sheet and the preferred shares, can you give a summary of where you stand with those and how you're approaching those? So let me approach answering it from this standpoint. So as you know, and you can see in our financials and our recent announcements, the company has now returned to growth again. And that's something that feels very good to us. Our goal is always and will continue to be to invest cash on the strength of a balance sheet into the growth of the company so that we can drive earnings and continue to diversify our business. And as cash generation improves, which quite frankly it has lately, the board will consider what the best use of those funds is. And I'll say this, we and the board are focused on reducing our debt load as fast as we can and on restructuring the convertible notes. As for preferred shares, we've certainly discussed it and we have come up with a few ideas here, but we're not quite ready to share those with you yet. But please do stay tuned. We will communicate in due course. This concludes our May AMA. Thanks again for joining, and thank you to those who submitted questions. If you didn't have a chance to ask your questions, it's not too late. Fill out the form in the video description box or drop your questions on X, formerly Twitter. Be sure to tag at Soluna Holdings in order to have your questions answered in our next AMA installment next month. If you did ask a question and it wasn't answered here, be sure to subscribe to our newsletter, also linked in the notes. We provide regular business insights and answer questions there as well regularly. Until next time, thank you.